the best sponsorships are so natural. They're so easy. And hopefully the hope is, Marines, how do you do more with WeCoach? Because I feel like what a great partner you found in them. Welcome to Sponsor Bowl, a podcast that brings together sports organizers and brand leaders to talk about the business of grassroots sports. I'm Garrett Shea, and I've spent the past 20 years in youth sports industry, where I've built nationally televised sporting events and corporate sponsorship programs. I created this podcast to bring in experts from the sports industry and have them share what they do in the space and how they do it. My guest today is going to talk about women in sports and the leaders who are inspiring more girls to play and stay in sport. Let's welcome Vanessa Fuchs, CEO of WeCoach. Hey, Vanessa, thanks so much for joining us today. Let's dive right in. We're talking WeCoach with the CEO of WeCoach, Vanessa Fuchs. Vanessa, give our audience a little bit of a background of what is WeCoach? What's the mission of WeCoach?
Sure. Garrett, thank you first for the opportunity to join you today for the conversation. Looking forward to it. Excited to share a little bit about WeCoach. I've had the honor and privilege of leading WeCoach as CEO since 2022. And we are a nonprofit membership organization, the largest in the United States, focused specifically on recruiting, advancing, and retaining more women in the critical profession of coaching. And we do that by offering an empowering community. We serve currently over 18,000 women across the country, all sports, all levels of sport. And we offer for our members year-round professional growth and leadership development programs. And we're on a mission to get more women to lead at every level of sport. Within our community, we have over 50 different sports represented. And like I mentioned, every level, beginning with youth, club, middle and high school, those grassroots levels of sport, up through collegiate, and then on through professional, national, and Olympic team coaches as well that are a part of our community.
Yeah. Well, I'm out there talking to brands all the time, and there's really not a hotter subject or interest for a brand than women's sports. As I look at it, it is the coaches that inspire young people to play and stay in sport. So they're really vital to the women's sports ecosystem. Talk a little bit about, WeCoach, and as you think about like recruiting more coaches into the sport, like how's WeCoach going about recruiting more women into the coaching world?
Yeah, well, like you, Garrett, we're thrilled for what we say is a movement, not a moment, for women in sport, and the investment that's happening right now is really exciting. Our recruitment efforts, we start at the grassroots levels. We really are trying to help young girls who are currently participating in sport to catch a vision that coaching could be a really rewarding career opportunity for them. And we really rely on our members, both men and women, who are currently coaching young girls and young women in sport, to help them as well by tapping them and saying, hey, have you ever thought about coaching? You would make a really great coach. And so it starts with our current coaches really inspiring that next generation to get into the pipeline to serve as leaders, as coaches of these different sport teams. But we also have dedicated programming that we offer to help aspiring coaches get on that path for a successful coaching career and land that first coaching opportunity. And so one of our programs is We Aspire to Coach, and it's a program that we run virtually. And it's really focused on what are the skills and the tools that young girls, young women need to know as far as becoming a coach, interviewing skills, resume writing, on up through how you present yourself and enter into the coaching profession, what you need to know as far as all the things that happen behind the scenes that sometimes as a student athlete, you may not see your coaches responsible for, but things like understanding what it takes to build program culture, understanding how to communicate with student athletes in this current generation. So a number of different topics that we offer through our program, We Aspire to help set these women on a path for coaching.
So, Vanessa, when you talk about the young coach or even right the student athlete, and I see it more now than I've ever seen it, where I see high school aged boys and girls who are getting into coaching youth sports, and I see that as such a great value, one for the athlete, because I do, I believe that the youth athlete responds so well to like the teenage athlete, right? And we're seeing it more and more, especially I see it a lot in flag football, where boys and girls that are teenage athletes are coming back and coaching their youth programs. And I know that you're doing a lot of work with organizations like the NFL at the league office, as well as NFL teams. Maybe talk a little bit about your relationship with the NFL, and then your future relationship with some of these NFL teams.
Absolutely. And we're really grateful for what's a partnership we brought on in the last year with the NFL to really help them in their efforts. They've got some incredible efforts right now to elevate women to the highest levels of football. And part of those initiatives involve working with more women coaching, not only tackle football, but certainly the excitement around flag football at the high school level. And so we're really grateful for the partnership with the NFL. They have an initiative, for example, the Women's Forum, and that's an initiative to really help women who are aspiring to coach at the pro levels of tackle football to create a pathway. And so just an awesome initiative that we're working with them to continue to grow. And then as far as our youth, flag is such a ripe opportunity right now, with it being the fastest growing sport at the high school level right now for young girls. And so how do we right now seize this moment to get more women to coach the sport of flag football? And so that's part of what we're working with. And some of these NFL franchises and communities is, for example, See Her, Be Her clinics. And how do we help inspire these young girls who are playing youth and high school flag football to also start thinking about getting into coaching once their playing career has concluded. And it's so important. You mentioned some of the high school athletes that are getting into coaching, and that's something that's becoming a focus for us. Is not just when they're at the collegiate level playing the sport, but now starting to help them see and start thinking about a future career path for them at the high school level. And it's so important that these young girls who are coming up in sport, that they see leaders, role models, and mentors who look like them. And so that's one key aspect of why it's so important we try to start to grow the numbers of women coaching. But there's no better opportunity than to start as they're still playing the sport, whether at the high school or collegiate level. And so that's some of the initiatives that we're working on, is to not only recruit more women in sports like flag, but then also to help build that next pipeline of leaders in sport.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's excellent. And make sure you like and subscribe. Sponsorable podcasts about our grassroots sports and the business of grassroots sports. That way, we can make sure that as many people have a chance to come in and see great guests like Vanessa, CEO of WeCoach. So clearly, as you're looking at the WeCoach mission, and there's the recruiting side, and I think you've tapped. I mean, it's such a great move, tapping into all of these student athletes at the high school level who can get into their youth leagues and get the catch the coaching bug. For those who have never had a chance to coach, it's hard to really appreciate what a great experience it is to coach and mentor and lead young people. And so I really do believe that getting people into coaching, and once they have that experience, hopefully that opens their mind and the door for, hey, when I go to college, maybe I should look into sports management or something that's going to lead me into the coaching career path, which I think is it's definitely a very unique approach. And so applaud you guys for building that out and starting to build it out. So that's a great strategy. Um, as it relates to as it relates to advancing women in coaching, maybe talk about some of the programs that WeCoach has that tap into that.
Yeah, and I'd love to do that. I probably should mention too just some of the data for some of the listeners that maybe aren't familiar. At every level of sport right now, we have less than 50% women coaching young girls and young women in sport. And so that's part of the problem we're trying to tackle as we talk about trying to move these numbers of women coaches. At the youth level, there's less than 25, 26% women coaching young girls at the youth and high school level. The data is really not even that great, to be honest, at the youth and high school levels. At the collegiate level, less than maybe 41% across all NCAA sports are coached or have a head coach that's a woman coaching women's sports in the NCAA. And so those are some of the numbers. And the reason our mission is so important is to truly try to drive those numbers back the other way. Believe it or not, back in the 70s when Title IX was passed, more than 90% of the head coaches of women's sports teams were women. And we've seen a dramatic decline since that time. And so really that's why we're trying to address that trend and move the numbers back the other way. As far as elevating women in coaching, that's another key aspect of the work that we do. And we do have some dedicated programming, a number of programs really that support current coaches who they might be an assistant or an associate head coach and are looking to kind of take the next step in their career, maybe take on increased leadership responsibilities, maybe step into a head coaching role. So programs like We Elevate, which is specifically designed to do just that, help these assistant and associate head coaches move into head coaching roles, give them the tools so that they can take and continue to advance their careers. But we also have programs like our signature academies that we've been running. That's really how WeCoach was founded, is through our women coaches academies that we founded first at the collegiate level in 2003 with the help of our partner, the NCAA. And we've now just came back from Denver and graduated our 54th class of WCA coaches who have come through our academy. Garrett, we've got over 2,400 women now who have graduated from our Women Coaches Academy. And the data tells us that women who attend our academies are staying in coaching at a higher rate than the national average. So we know that that's something that's helping them to not only stay in coaching, but advance their careers. So much of the feedback is these programs are transformational.
And this is where I think, organizations probably like WeCoach are challenged in the sense that brands are looking for, these huge numbers, right? They want the millions of impressions. But what I think brands maybe miss the mark on is the quality and the level of impact that programs like your Women's Coaching Academy has on women that are going to be in coaching for the next 20 years, right? And they're going to impact so many young people and young women in sport. So finding brand, and I've got to believe that finding brands to invest in programs like the Women's Coaches Academy um, is a challenge because you're talking about impacting 100 coaches but it's 100 coaches who you're going to have 3 days of engagement, and it's focused and it's really, I mean, it is top quality, right? Training, education, networking. It's everything you would want as a coach. And but I realized too, it's like, hey, that's one of your core, programs. But like, who are some of the partners that are supporting, programs like your Coaches Academy?
Yeah, I mentioned the NCAA. They've been our longtime partner of the academies, and they provide us with grant funding. But we've also had partners like the Marines come in and sponsor our academies, and they've found great success. The Marines do both. They'll do programs like our WeCoach academies, but then they also go out to larger coaches conventions. And believe it or not, Garrett, they've said they've had more opportunities to gain one-on-one access to these coaches, build relationships, get them interested in some of the programming and resources that they offer to coaches by coming on site for 3 days with our academy participants, more of that than they get when they're at a larger convention featuring over 1,000 coaches. They've had more traffic, more requests from these coaches to bring the Marines onto their campuses and work with their teams, opportunities for these coaches to come out and participate in the Marines coaches workshops. They've had a lot of success with building relationships on site at our events because it is a lot more intimate, a lot more access to these coaches while they're there. And that's intentional for us. We are looking to the future to maybe launch a larger event that we can serve more of our members on site. But right now, we've found a lot of value, and the feedback from our coaches is they really enjoy the smaller, intimate classes that we create. It really does foster more authentic conversations, a safer space for them to talk about some of the significant challenges that they have, because coaching is a difficult profession. And so we've found that the feedback from our coaches is, and just coming back from these academies last week, reading some of the evaluations that they provided, so many of them saying, best professional development program I've ever been a part of, transformational experience. I can't wait to come back for NCAA Academy 2.0. And I'm going to tell all of my coaches that are in my network that they have to come and experience this. And so I think the Marines have found value. We also have partners like Huddle that have provided scholarships to allow these women to access our academies and help defray some of the costs that they're paying out of pocket to be able to come. And so there's a number of ways to get involved as a partner with our academies, but we've found that our partners have really found value and a strong return on their investment. And our coaches absolutely are grateful for their support.
Yeah, no, let's talk about the Marines a little bit. Like the Marines are definitely an interesting organization brand, especially as you look at, what they do in sports marketing. That they're clearly, very event focused. So the fact that they go to thousands of different events, and they come back and they say, hey, the WeCoach or the Women's Coaching Academy is the most impactful that we attend, is a great, tribute to what you're building. And it's interesting because, probably a lot like yourself, I've been to a lot of these, big, large conferences, and you understand very quickly the Marine perspective when it's like, hey, there's 5,000 coaches here, but I maybe talk to, I maybe talk to 200 coaches for 25 seconds each, right? Whereas opposed to, hey, I'm going to spend 3 days at the Women Coaches Academy, and I'm going to have meaningful time with 100 current college coaches. And so I think that's a very, I think a lot of times brands probably don't analyze, that, that criteria where it's like, well, you might only have 100 coaches, but I'm going to be able to really build meaningful relationships with those coaches. And I'm assuming that the Marines, you've been with the Marines for a couple years now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we've been able to continue to grow that relationship. This year too, Garrett, we for the first time actually had a Marine participant, a captain in the Marines, join the class. And they were a member of WCA Class 54. She had tears in her eyes at the end of 3 days after we graduated, sharing just how impactful it was for her as a Marine to come and experience the academies. And so she was in every session, and she really found a lot of value. A lot of our programming too is so transferable to any industry. We're talking about leadership, communication, culture, and those topics are transferable no matter what industry you're in. And so we were fortunate to have a Marine representative join us for the class this year, as well as having a few other Marine representatives on site. They led some morning workouts. So train like the Marines morning workouts this year. They led a session on resiliency that the coaches loved, being able to talk about how they build resiliency in the student athletes that they're leading on their teams. But they've been a phenomenal partner for us, and we're excited about what's to come.
Yeah, and I think back to one of the first projects I ever did was I ran the U.S. Army All-American Bowl on, at the time it was on ESPN. And it was funny, the very first year, it was just the National High School All-Star Game. And we got a call from the Army agency, and they said, "Well, high school football and the U.S. Army, there's not a better match. How do we become the title sponsor?" And which makes me think about the U.S. Marine Corps and coaches. There's not a better match, right? Like they just as you talk about the integration, it's really easy integration. It's like, hey, we're gonna have some great Marine speakers talk to coaches and inspire and talk to them about leadership, communication, accountability, all like and it is such a perfect match. And that's where I look back and say the best sponsorships are so natural. They're so easy. And hopefully the hope is, hey, Marines, how do you do more with WeCoach? Because I feel like what a great partner you found in them. Um, yeah. So let's talk about the future of WeCoach. Where's WeCoach headed? Obviously, you've got some great programs, um, you know, in place. What do the next couple years hold for WeCoach?
So many big vision items on our list, but it's going to continue to take more partners, Garrett, to continue to have the resources to be able to achieve some of what our board and our team is hoping to accomplish for our community. You mentioned our programming, and some of our programs, like we said, you might be serving 100, 300 coaches at a time. We're really focused on offering more in-person opportunities for coaches. We have certainly a nice blend of virtual and in-person, but that's something that's a focus for ours is how do we continue to grow the number of in-person programs. This year, we're not only going to have the Denver Academy, but we have a second opportunity to host an academy in Indianapolis at the NCAA National Office in November. And the Marines will also be a part of that and several other of our partners. But that's what we're growing toward is not just offering once a year or a couple times a year, but multiple times a year, many of our programs so that we can get around the country to impact coaches kind of where they're at. So that's a big one. We're also looking at our membership model, and we've had some partners recently step up like Gatorade to fund memberships for communities that they have interest in impacting. And so they've stepped up this year in their partnership. A new initiative is they're going to fund 3 very large school districts. All the women coaches in these 3 identified school districts are going to get memberships to WeCoach. LA, Detroit, Philadelphia, all the women in those high schools will have now memberships to WeCoach as a result of Gatorade's support of our community. And so we're really excited about some of these new initiatives that we've been able to launch with the partners. And, with the financial challenges at every level of sport right now, it's been well received for school districts, conferences to not have to pay out of pocket for access for their coaches to WeCoach.
And that's where I think as I see the sponsorship market going. If you were to press me on, hey, what do brands really want? And I believe brands historically have or not historically, but the last couple of years have focused on investing in women's sports and investing in programs that allow them to get into the school systems. And I think that's a really interesting model, especially as you look at it's a win for everybody because for the school district, it's providing great education and resources for their women coaches. For Gatorade, it's giving them great PR visibility for supporting the school system, and for WeCoach, it's getting hopefully a whole new group of coaches into the WeCoach ecosystem that you can continue to impact, not just for this year but for many years to come. So those are very interesting partnerships. That's hats off to you guys for pulling that together. And obviously you can't get better brand than Gatorade to
Absolutely.
to work with on that. So
Well, and one thing I'll add to that, Garrett, is we're also very fortunate with some of these partnerships. And I mentioned some of the resources the Marines offer, but it's mutually beneficial because we're also benefiting and our members are benefiting. The Gatorade offers a platform called the Fieldhouse, Gatorade Fieldhouse, and it's a, a multitude of resources for coaches on sport performance, a number of different topics, and it's free for our members to utilize, to download and register and subscribe to, that help to supplement their learning as a coach. And so we love those partnerships as well, like the Marines, like Gatorade, where they're offering resources to our members in addition to supporting our community and the programs and events that we offer.
Yeah. So I mean, you're doing a great job, clearly leading WeCoach and blazing the future path. But how'd you get into? I find a lot of times, especially with maybe some of our younger listeners and younger folks, they love sports. They're big sports fans. They want to work in sports. But as you and I both know, like getting into sports marketing or sports business can be challenging. How'd you get into the sports world?
Yeah, I was first aspiring as a collegiate student athlete. I played basketball in 1 year of track and field at Florida State University. And while I was there, I thought I was either going to be a coach or I was going to go into sports broadcasting and be on the sidelines calling games. And at the time, we really didn't see a lot of women in that career. So that was I was thinking one of those two options. I was going to stay on at FSU, and unfortunately, after my toward the end of my senior year, some budget cuts, so I wasn't able to continue on as a grad assistant to kind of get into that coaching pipeline. And one of our administrators at FSU made me aware of an internship at the ACC and the Futures internship, and it's for ACC student athletes. And they would place us at the time, the interns, either at the different TV partners that were a part of the ACC, but there were also some internships at the ACC office. Now, I first thought, well, I'll get placed at one of the TV partners, and that's going to kickstart my broadcasting career. And I actually, it wasn't what I expected, but it turned out to be one of the best opportunities in my career was to go and work at the ACC office planning their Olympic sport championships. So that was my first job right out of college. And then I had an opportunity to take a second internship after completing my master's degree at Carolina with the NCAA. And again, another one of those moments where the department that selected me for the internship, academics and membership affairs, I thought I was going to go do championships because that's what I did at the ACC. Again, another pivotal point in my career, being able to work at the NCAA, working on legislation, interpretations of legislation, kind of the equivalent of compliance on campus. Built a national network working with every division in NCAA sports, 1, 2, and 3. And that's what led me to be able to come back to my alma mater, Florida State, in 2010 as an administrator and senior associate athletics director. I first was overseeing the compliance office at FSU and then moved into a role where I was able to oversee multiple departments in sports. How WeCoach came about, I was not looking to leave Florida State. I loved what I did. Um, but I was really compelled by the opportunity to not only continue to impact people and learn new skills, but in many ways, what drew me to WeCoach was the opportunity to impact history in many ways. A lot of what we're doing to try to move the numbers of women and kind of change history going forward for women in sport was something that I couldn't pass up. So in 2022 is when I joined Team WeCoach, and it's been one of the most rewarding experiences in my career.
You bring up a good point because I think a lot of, especially young or student athletes, and folks that maybe have played sport and are interested in getting into sport, think about it just like, oh, I could, go into coaching. But there's so many other phases of sport on the business side, right? As an administrator, as on the TV side, on the operational side, on the compliance side. I mean, there's so many opportunities, and that's one of, in my opinion, one of the great benefits of getting more young women into sport to play sport, because then they have a chance to be exposed, one, to all of those different jobs and different career paths. And hey, you can work in sport without being a professional athlete. You can work in sport without being a professional coach. There's probably more career opportunities in all these other, you know, business operations around sport.
Especially with the growth of technology in sport. There are so many careers out there, and there's no one right path. But certainly, I've been fortunate with different stops along the way that have all ultimately continued to serve me well now in leading WeCoach and continuing to grow our organization. But yes, so many opportunities, and I think young people just need to understand that for me, I took 2 internships before I was ever hired full time, and 2 very different internships, not in the exact career path that I aspired to work, but ultimately have served me very well in some of the next steps along the way. And so, um, yeah, but you're right about that. There's just been the opportunities to work in sport are endless, and I think more education is needed for young people to learn more about those opportunities that are out there.
You bring up sport technology, and that's one of the always hot topics on Sponsorable, and mainly because, right, at the end of the day, you have 18,000 members, and it'd be really challenging to have an in-person program that could really impact all 18,000. So maybe talk about some of your uses of technology to engage and educate and work, with those 18,000 WeCoach members.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a key part of what we're doing, and we're continually trying to learn how we can become more efficient, not only with our operations, but certainly with the communications that we push out to our members. We're using a platform right now that we just launched in the last year to incorporate text messaging to our coaches as an additional means to communicate with them. But we're learning also that some of these social media platforms are a great way because that's where the coaches are for recruiting purposes. They've got to be on social media. And so we've learned that some of the direct messaging and different social media platforms are really effective with communicating for our members. But we're also exploring, continually looking at different platforms to deliver our programs and events. And we're currently exploring one, for example, Band is a free platform for coaches to use. And it's a great way for them to build community with other coaches around the country and communicate with coaches throughout the year, learn from each other, but also to upload resources and continue to um, uh, engage with one another. And so we're exploring that as an enhanced option for our members. But there's a number of platforms. We're also looking at how we can use some of the functionality on some of our virtual programs to make it more engaging and interactive. Since COVID, I think a lot of people would agree that sometimes virtual programs, folks are, a little tired of Zoom calls, right? And so how do we make those more fun, more interactive, break them up into small groups, allowing coaches to learn from one another in smaller settings? And so we're continually exploring. The last one I'll mention is AI. We're just starting to dabble and learn about how AI can help with our operations and streamline some things for our staff. And so continuing to try to stay on the cutting edge of some of the technology that's available.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I love the use of small groups and leveraging technology to make the small groups, one, happen, and two, just more accessible. Because I think that's really important, piece. I think too often, you see these like, hey, we're going to have a webinar, and they're, trying to get, 500 coaches, and we're just talking to you, as opposed to, right, when you have some of these small groups, and one program that I know that you run, that kind of jumps to mind is like a We Mentor, and that jumps to mind for me. I was raised a coach's kid. My father had a chance to coach with Bill Walsh, and he actually left a head job at San Jose State, where he was the head football coach, to go and work for Bill Walsh because he said there there's never going to be a time to have as great of a mentor than now with Coach Walsh. And so that the mentorship piece of coaching and probably, is vital. Maybe share with us a little bit more about your We Mentor program.
Absolutely. That's another signature program we usually have in the upwards of a couple hundred coaches participating in that annually. And this past year, we expanded it. We had been running that as an 8-month program, Garrett, and we offered new options where there were four-month cohorts in the fall and the spring for coaches that didn't have the ability to participate in the 8-month option. But what we do with our mentor program is very intentional how we set that up. The participants are paired into trios with three coaches in a trio, and we try to pair up the coaches based on the level of coaching experience that they have. Our bronze coaches are 0 to 5 years of experience, silver 5 to 10 years, gold coaches it's 10 plus years, and we hope that we encourage that the gold members also have a little bit of head coaching experience. And in those trios, it's intentional because we know the data tells us we're losing women from the coaching profession at the highest rate when they reach their late 20s, early 30s. And we know that at that time, women might still be figuring out what they want to do with their careers, but also they're starting relationships. They might be getting married. They might be starting families. And it just becomes a critical point where women are making decisions on, can I stay in coaching and still, for example, manage and be a really great mom at home? And so our trios are set up for that silver, the coach in years 5 to 10 of their career. They're getting mentored by the gold member and they're mentoring the bronze. And it's really intentional because we're trying to target keeping those women in their late 20s, early 30s in coaching. And so that's a little bit about our mentor program, but it's been a really effective program that's set up based on the data.
Yeah, I would believe that has to be one of the most impactful programs because there, at least in my mind, I don't know of another organization that has a mentoring program like that. So that sounds like it truly is an impactful one. Well, and I know as you're looking, at always growing membership as a nonprofit leader, membership is the lifeblood of an organization. Maybe share with our listeners, who can join WeCoach and how do you join WeCoach?
Yeah, absolutely. We pride ourselves on affordable access. Our memberships for youth, club, middle, and high school coaches are for a year, $59 for an individual. A high school can join for $200 flat rate and put all of their coaches on a membership. At the collegiate level, an individual member can join for $99. And then we also have an ally level of membership for $79. There might be retired coaches, allies and champions that support our mission and just want to contribute to the cause. So those are our 3 levels of membership. But another lifeblood for us has been, as we continue this theme of affordable access, is we are continuing to grow our scholarship funding for both our youth and high school women coaches academy, as well as our collegiate women coaches academies. We're trying to get to a point, we're not there yet, but we're working toward it, to grow our scholarship funding so that women are able to access these programs. And at one point, we're hoping to achieve for free. We're not there yet, but our scholarship funds, through the support of not only our partners, but generous donors, is one that is very important for our organization, and trying to allow women who may not have the financial means or may not have the budget at their school or university to be able to participate. And so our scholarships have been able to offset some of those expenses. And one day we hope to get to a place where it's free access for some of these programs through the scholarships we've been able to raise.
And I imagine that brands can also donate. Like if they said, "Hey, I want to donate funds for this school district to make sure all of their women coaches can be members of WeCoach," you don't just have to be a sponsor partner, right? You're open to brands that are looking to
Absolutely.
donate.
Absolutely. We really do. For brands need to know that we really, a majority of our partnerships are customized to what is most beneficial for that brand and for that partner. And so whatever is most impactful for them and the goals that they're trying to achieve, we try to carve that out and build a custom partnership to allow them to achieve those goals. So certainly one aspect that some brands have expressed interest in is to fund memberships for coaches, fund scholarships for coaches, and not just kind of place their logos in a traditional sponsorship, but more trying to impact directly the people that are in our community. And so we're grateful for that.
Great. Well, as we look to, clearly, support your mission, I think it's a fantastic one. Coaches will certainly directly impact the number of young women who continue to play sport and stay in sport, and getting more women coaches at the youth, middle school, high school levels, I think will only allow girls' participation across all sport to grow. So certainly, our hats are tipped to the job that you're doing, the mission of WeCoach, and certainly hope that brands and individuals continue to support what a great cause you're leading.
Thank you. Means a lot, Garrett. Appreciate your support. And thank you for the opportunity today.
So, Vanessa, for folks that are interested in getting in contact with you, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yes, absolutely. We've got our website at wecoachsports.org. Again, that's wecoachsports.org. We also are on all of the major social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, X, and LinkedIn. We also have a YouTube channel that shares some of the magic that happens with our programming, but those are some of the primary ways that you can reach out to us. And if anyone would just like to contact me directly, I'm happy to share. My email is vanessa@wecoachsports.org.